jobs are at risk over government plans to cut tax relief. It's thought the proposals could affect up to 150 firms, which would have to pay higher rates. And in sport, Lewis Hamilton could make history this afternoon. If he wins the Portuguese Grand Prix, he'll set the record for the most Formula One victories. That's the latest. I'm Kiran Bangle.
Thinking about going to Europe in 2021? It may seem like a long way off, but you'll need to act now. Because we've left the EU, you'll need to check and make changes before you go. From passports to travel insurance. Find out everything you need to know about travel to Europe next year at gov.uk/transition. Act now. Check the guidance, make the changes, and let's get going.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Good morning and welcome to Talking Points with me, Keith Vaz. Thank you, Sonia, for a fascinating show. What an interesting discussion about why married men don't wear wedding rings. I thought, Sonia, you knew how to identify a married man. He gets up as soon as his wife enters the room and he salutes. Maybe I should phone in next week. Thank you for joining me on Leica Radio 1458 today, Sunday the 25th of October 2020. If you think it's either 9 a.m. in the morning or 11 a.m, you have forgotten to put your clock back, or you put it forward by 1 hour by mistake. On this day in 1616, the Dutch East India Company discovered Australia, and Dirk Hartog named his landing spot after himself. Imagine if we still called it by that name. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Dirk Hartog Island. Now tell me, do you recognise this sound? For those celebrating Navratri, this must be the most unusual 9 days ever. Russ and Garba from the comfort of your sofa. Happy birthday to Sukhpal Alawalia this week, the man who brought car parts to the masses with his old company, Euro Car Parts. This week's Songs of the Week have been chosen by Lakshi Pathamaskaran, who got a first-class honours degree in law and is currently studying for the legal practice course at City University. She's a bubbly, outgoing person who loves spontaneous adventures and long drives. She joins me this morning from Woodford in Essex. Good morning, Lakshi.
Good morning, Keith.
Now tell me which songs you've chosen and who are they dedicated to?
Song number 1 is Jalebi Bai from Double Damal. I dedicate this song to my aunt Mala because this is her all-time favourite song. Whenever I feel like I need a burst of energy, this song gives me exactly that.
Wonderful, and that is exactly what we need on Sunday morning, a good burst of energy. What about your second song?
Song number 2 is Tujh Mein Rab Dikhta Hai from Rab Ne Bana Jodi. I dedicate this song to my loving parents, Padman and Shivani. This song is such a beautiful melody, sung with such passion. My family and I could listen to this on repeat for days.
Wonderful. We will listen to your songs with great interest. Thank you for joining us this Sunday morning and have a great Sunday, Lakshi.
Thank you very much, Keith. You too.
On the programme today, my guests include Alpesh Patel, an investment guru and finance city deal maker, advisor to governments, private bankers, investment funds, and TV commentator. Liberal Democrat councillor Rabi Martins from Watford, who will be talking about, yes, COVID-19, giving us an update from North London. And we'll also be talking to Christina McInerney, the Assistant General Secretary of Britain's biggest trade union, Unison, who will be telling us about the morale amongst frontline staff. Obviously, one day we'll be having an entire programme without mentioning the C word, but it's not that time yet. Please stay tuned. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. We are now going to talk to a big wheel in finance. My special guest today is one of the City of London's leading investment experts. Alpesh Patel is an investment professional, deal maker, advisor to governments, private banks and investment funds. He's authored 18 books on investment, which has been translated into 8 different languages. Educated at King's College London and Oxford, he is a trained barrister. Successive prime ministers have appointed him to advisory roles in order to improve our links with India. He is an international trade specialist and a founding director of the UK-India Business Council. He's been associated with some of the biggest names in business, and only last week he was awarded an OBE by Her Majesty the Queen. He joins me this morning from Chiswick. Good morning, Alpesh Patel, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Keith.
Now, Alpesh, you were born and raised not in Wembley, Leicester or Harrow, but in Leeds. Do you remember your childhood, and was it typically Gujarati?
I don't know what typically Gujarati is, but yes, I was born in beautiful Leeds, and I have to say I'm a Yorkshireman first and British and Indian second. It was absolutely the happiest of childhood. There wasn't a silver spoon, but you'll know how it is when you're a child. None of those things matter. As long as you've got love of a large extended family. So if that's the Gujarati bit, then yes, no, very much so. And my grandmother, Sushila-ben, who's no longer with us, but she raised me with my uncles and aunt, and of course my parents. And yes, it was just a joyous time to be in Leeds, and all the space and all the benefits you get by not being in London.
So you then left your Tetley tea bags and you headed off to King's College London to study law, and then from there you went to Oxford, where you studied philosophy, politics, economics. You got an MA degree. All that education, was that being driven by parents, or was this something that you wanted to do yourself?
The funny thing is, Keith, people always assume, because the education is such an important part in our community in particular, culturally so important, that, you must have been, had pushy parents or pushy family. If anything, my parents were telling me to study less. They said, look, you need to go out more. Now I'm teetotal, but they'd say go to the pubs more and, go out and have fun with your friends more. I don't think there was ever a case where anybody ever told me to study. It was very much self-driven, because I saw how hard they worked and my family worked, my uncles, my aunts, everybody. And so there was this debt of honour to make sure I did the best I could at school, and that they would never regret, that, he's not doing what he should, he's not working as hard as he could. So the education part came really from my own drive, and also in sports at school, in cricket and badminton. I didn't just want to be bookish. I think it's really important. And I know you've led fitness drives as well. I felt it was really important to have that holistic aspect to life as well.
And from there, from London, Oxford, you ended up in Boston in the United States. Like so many young Asian origin people, indeed like the Chancellor himself, there was a stint in America. You went to Boston on a student exchange. What was that experience like? How different was it studying there compared to studying in, for example, King's in London?
I have to say it was one of the most important and happiest times of my life. So when I was at Oxford, it was a student exchange program with Boston University, but I was actually based in Washington working for Congressman Eliot Engel, who's a Democrat from New York. And the reason it was such an important time was it was the midterms during Clinton's first term. The Republicans had just taken over the House. There was China joining the WTO. That was being debated. I was working for Eliot on issues related to nuclear weapon proliferation, in particular proliferation of nuclear technology out of North Korea. I can tell you, I don't think I've ever done anything as important as I did for him. Now, I was a lowly intern, so my job was literally going around just, doing the donkey work. There's nothing I can take credit for. But even on that, and the donkey work, by the way, included writing the first draft of the speech welcoming Nelson Mandela to the US Congress, writing that draft for Eliot. The whole draft was obviously binned because my writing skills weren't that fantastic at that time. But nevertheless, at least I can say as an intern, I wrote, what went into the bin, but it was for Nelson Mandela's welcome to the US Congress. So yeah, fondest memories of working in Congress.
And while you were there, I know obviously Washington, Boston is different from New Jersey. Did you get any insight into an aspect of American life that's fascinating me, especially with obviously the choice of Kamala Harris as the vice presidential candidate? The middle-class Indian Asians seems to have done differently, better or worse than what they've done in the UK. It might not have been something that you thought about then, but looking back, did you have much interaction with the Asian community when you were there?
I did. I launched a little newsletter when I was working in Congress, which was for the Indian community in the United States. They had no lobbying power. They had no political power, no influence at that time. We're going back to 1994. Obviously, that's changed significantly now. They really hadn't had that influence that our community in the UK have had. They were very much focused on either business or academia. And, the old adage is that the highly trained, skilled, scientific, educated ones went to the US, and the more manual ones, like my parents, came to the UK, and so Silicon Valley is pretty much run by Indians. I mean, it's no secret. I was there last year, and if you look at Apple's launch, you'll see virtually every single person who's on their YouTube channel is Indian. Those companies are run by Indians. But what I wanted to do at that time when I was working in Congress is to try and get them to be a more powerful lobbying force, because I was reading US politics and I knew without that, using, say, AIPAC, the Israeli lobby, as a role model, to have more influence, have more of a voice. So that's what struck me the most about the community at that time. And like I say, of course, it's all changed now and they're significantly more influential.
This is Keith Vaz on Like Radio 1458 talking to the financier Alpesh Patel, an investment expert. We've been talking about his life as a student. When we come back, we'll be talking about his life in business. Stay tuned.
This is
Like a Radio.
Keep doing it. Yeah. Bring the beat for right back. Like this.
Pumping on, she'll blow your mind away and shake you like a storm. She'll do what she likes, that will turn you on.
This is Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, listening to the tunes of Lakshi, which she has chosen specially for us. Now, I'm talking to Alpesh Patel, the investment expert, about his life, and we turn to his business career. Alpesh, fast forward from Boston and Washington, which sounded particularly exciting, to your career in business and the company that you're currently a director of, and the unique bridge that you have established between high-growth asset issues and the superior financial expertise that everyone wants to listen to very carefully. What exactly does your company do, and how do you assist people in terms of investment decisions?
Yes, no, absolutely. Originally, I started out with setting up a hedge fund. Now, most people don't know what one of those is. Basically, we buy and sell shares for pension funds and so on. And, so it might be Apple, Amazon, those kind of companies, and you just buy and sell. And what attracted me was that you just need to click a button on your keyboard to do it. You didn't need to go meet people. You didn't need to do lots of due diligence. Those are public companies. We then moved into what's called private equity, which is where we make investments, again, for pension funds, into healthcare companies, in our case, and in particular, Indian healthcare companies, even though we're a British company. And the idea was that we would take investments into American companies and then bring them to the Indian market. So they'd have the American know-how and technology and the Indian demand. And I set up the hedge fund originally in 2005 and then the private equity arm. I absolutely hate private equity, I'm afraid. I don't particularly enjoy raising capital. I don't enjoy that part of it. I enjoy actually teaching people to do it themselves. So I'm at a crossroads now to decide whether or not we'll continue more down that road of private equity investments and capital raising, all the rest of it, or whether I'll continue on the financial technology side and just showing people how to do things for themselves rather than paying fat cat fund managers who do it for them.
Now, while you make that very important decision, another crossroads in your life, tell us your take on the current state of the British economy.
Well, of course, nobody's happy that we've had to borrow so much more money than we would have liked, because, of course, that means you've got to fund that payment. The good news, if I can put it that way, is that if we're borrowing the money, it's obviously going to people who need it the most. It's the people who are on furlough, it's the businesses which need that support. And, like I said, I grew up in Leeds and without a silver spoon in my mouth, so I'm very well aware that it's that end that needs protecting, not the London Alpesh, but the Leeds Alpesh, if you see what I mean. And it's an economy which the rest of the world is willing to lend to, despite Brexit. So when we say we need to borrow a bit more money, and we tend to, by the way, only borrow about 3 to 4%. That's the shortfall on our gross income. Let's put it that way. If we think of a country like an individual, we take out the credit card to borrow about 3 to 4% each year. Now, obviously, this year it'll be a bit more. And the world wants to lend to us at low interest rates because we're creditworthy. So on that side, I'm going to be optimistic. It is my nature to be optimistic, but I'm optimistic. We've got a healthy economy and we will bounce back.
Sure. Now, one of ABBA's famous songs was Thank You for the Music. And I suppose the public is saying to the Chancellor and to the government, thank you for the money. We've been able to avoid COVID by staying at home and we're still being paid. That, of course, is coming to an end. The debt, though, is huge, is it not? Will we ever pay it back? When will we ever hear of a country that has no debt? We're always hearing about the debts of these countries. You're someone who is right in the heart of these decision-making processes. Will this ever be paid back?
Saudi Arabia is a country with no debt. I mean, the oil-rich countries don't have any debt. In actual fact, we want to run a bit of debt. Again, let's think of it like an individual. To borrow at a low interest rate, which you can roll forward, hopefully forever. It's not like they're going to come to my son, Rian, and say, right, pay the bill, mate. If you can roll it forward at a low level of interest and invest it, that's the important thing. Because in the past, governments have often spent the money on things which have not given a return on investment. So just like an individual or a family, if you borrow a little bit, not too much that you're paying so much in interest that you're crushing yourself, and you can invest it to create more income, so for instance infrastructure projects or into our education system so we get more skilled people in the workforce, then you get the payback through tax revenue later. That's the trick. And so you're right, we do have ever increasing levels of debt. We pay, however, about £44 billion in interest each year. Now, given that the government receives about 700 billion. Of course, 44 billion in one sense is large. In another, it's not. I'd wish it was smaller. But given we need to borrow, it's not all going into debt interest payments.
Well, one final question in this section, which is for our listeners who have shares, and some of them will have got their own shares, this is their life savings. Is it a good time to buy or sell?
It's always a good time to buy if you're buying the kinds of companies which, when the market falls, and we can't forecast when it will, and if it will, they will not fall as far and will rebound more and recover. So I say to people, if you put a gun to my head, I love Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. I still love those stocks. I like PayPal, but it's only suitable if you don't need the money tomorrow. If you can hold for the longer term, then of course you're reducing your risk. If you're going to need it in the short term, within 12 months, then the stock market's too risky. risky, but if you can invest for longer, then those companies are better. And I want British people to own international global stocks. They can put them in their SIPs and ISAs and save for their pensions. They don't realise this, that they can own American companies, which go up a lot more than British companies often do. But that's fine, because we've got Americans working for us. We bring the money to the UK and spend it in our local communities. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, thank you for that advice. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to the investment and finance expert Alpesh Patel. When we come back, I'm going to be talking to him about Brexit. Well, of course, we've had Brexit. We were out on the 31st of January, but the transition ends in just a few weeks' time. And also about his all-important role in building up links between Britain and India. Please join me after the...
Hira Foods, with an array of spices, lentils, rice, nuts, flours and spice mixes to choose from. Whether you're cooking vegan, vegetarian or non-veg, you're sure to find delicious Hira ingredients. Hira Foods, king in quality, king in taste.
लंदन में पहली बार ऐसा कमाल, अप टू 26 आइटम्स इन जलाराम थाल। 11 से 4 बजे के बीच आइए और खाइए। प्राइस फ्रॉम 599। चाहे तो पार्टी बुक कराइए। जलाराम थाल, स्वाद से मालामाल। 97 ईलिंग रोड, वेम्बली। फोन 0208 903 5598।
यूके ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਡੀਆ, ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਤੇ ਬੰਗਲਾਦੇਸ਼ ਸਮੇਤ ਕਈ ਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਗਰਿਕ 1988 ਦੇ ਅੰਤ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਸੈਟਲ ਤਾਂ ਹਨ, ਪਰ ਸੰਭਾਵਨਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਕਾਨੂੰਨੀ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਨਾ ਹੋਣ। ਤਾਂ ਵਿੰਡਰਸ਼ ਸਕੀਮ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਾਗਜ਼ਾਤ ਦਿਵਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਨ, ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਮੁਫਤ। ਪੇਪਰ ਨਾ ਹੋਣ ਕਰਕੇ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨੌਕਰੀ, ਸਵਸਥ ਸੇਵਾ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਹਾਇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਅਫਸਰ ਗਵਾਏ ਹਨ, ਤਾਂ ਵਿੰਡਰਸ਼ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਰਜਾਨੇ ਦੇ ਹੱਕਦਾਰ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਵਿੰਡਰਸ਼ ਹੈਲਪ ਟੀਮ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰੋ। Phone 0800 678 1925 or visit gov.uk/windrush-help-team.
के का मतलब कीमत कम, के का मतलब क्वालिटी में दम, के का मतलब डिलीवरी एकदम। के फर्नीचर अप टू 70% ऑफ ऑन सोफास, डाइनिंग, बेड्स एंड बेडरूम फर्नीचर। स्टोर्स एट Cricklewood, Harrow and Hitchin or visit kfurniture.co.uk.
Leica Mobile offers unlimited international minutes including India, Australia, Canada, USA and many other countries. Unlimited 4G data, unlimited UK minutes, unlimited UK texts. EU roaming available. Only £35 per month. For more information, visit leicamobile.co.uk. T's and C's apply.
Tilda Rice sponsor the Navratri Garba every day 8 to 9 p.m. on Leica Radio. Tilda Rice, celebrating 50 years of delivering finest quality rice thanks to you.
During lockdown, people started to listen to radio more. Radio is the best way to let your customers know that you are open again. To win customers back is challenging, but radio can help. Call Leica Media sales team on 0207 132 1458 to make your customers aware that you are open again.
Leica Radio. Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to my special guest, Alpesh Patel, the investment and finance expert. Alpesh, you were for staying in during the referendum, but you now accepted that we have to come out. We were out on the 31st of January. The transition ends on the 31st of December. Should we take any financial precautions? Should we stockpile anything in our homes in preparation for the 31st of December?
Well, I have to say, on that area, I don't think I am an expert any more than anybody else is on that part. So, look, I'll tell you how I'm preparing from a business perspective. I'm going to be just asking my accountant, what do I do? Because he's got to be the expert, surely, and will tell me, actually, Alpesh, you've got to fill these forms in and whatever. From a personal basis, as you know, I invest, and my advice has always been the same, that I want the kinds of companies which, if the market were to fall, they won't fall as far, and when the market goes up and everybody looks a genius, they will outperform all the others. So in one sense, these turbulent times don't make a difference to how I'm seeing things.
Now, one of the most important things that you've done for government, with government, has been the relationship with India, and successive prime ministers, Tony Blair, who introduced the first Indo-EU summit when he was president of the Council of Ministers, appointed you as a special advisor to improve links with India, and David Cameron kept you on and asked you to do similar things. How was that role? Was it difficult trying to establish a new pathway for that relationship between India and the UK?
The first role under Tony Blair on the UK-India Roundtable was an eye-opener for me because I was only 29. It was chaired by Lord Paul, who you'll know very well, and I was surrounded by all these people who were at least 2 or 3 times my age. So I thought they've got the wrong Alpesh Patel. I still do, actually. And there, what was interesting was the Prime Minister and Robin Cook, who was then Foreign Secretary, wanted closer ties, and they felt they weren't close enough. And we were asked to advise on everything, from educational links to trade to even issues regarding Kashmir, etc. All of these things would come up, and our policy decisions or suggestions went to number 10. So it was very exciting. And one of my pointers, which never got taken up, was I think we should have open borders with India. I mean, just look at the track record of Indians when they come here. Why the heck would you restrict it? Number 10 didn't take that one up, actually, for some reason.
Surprising. Now, you are also one of the founding directors of the UK-India Business Council. Are you pleased with the progress that is made, or do you think it could have done much better?
I think, Keith, I'm probably like you. I don't think I'm ever happy with progress. I always think that there's always more that can be done. I am actually happy with the UK-India Business Council because it's been going on for so long, and what they've done is they've helped British companies who are looking to export to have a soft landing. In other words, help them with the networks, help them with a place to set up, get them the soft introductions, the soft leads, as it were, the warm leads, and make their life a lot easier. And I've seen the work originally under Karan Billamoria and then Tricia Hewitt firsthand, because I was on there for, I think, over 10 years. So I am happy with that. I want the relationship with India to be just like it is with America. And it isn't. And it seems ridiculous. Anybody who's British Indian would think, well, why the heck isn't it? Why
isn't it? Exactly. Answer that question. Why isn't it very special? Bearing in mind the number of Indians who are here, the fact that Prime Ministers always say they want that special relationship. Modi's relationship with Boris Johnson is very good, what we've seen publicly. Why is it the case that it's not even better? What stops this?
I think to some extent it's been India's reticence to be a player on the world stage. Britain is going to be with those, not just with obviously economic might as the US has, not just with the cultural liberal democracy which India has and shares as well, but it needs players who will stand up on the UN stage, and obviously India's not on the P5, so the permanent membership, and so that makes India less significant in that regard. But also, India hasn't vocal on the world stage, hasn't stood up as much as we British Indians would want it to be. We want, and I think one of the reasons why Narendra Modi's been popular amongst the circles he has is because he's been willing to do that more. And I think when that happens, then you get a greater closeness to the UK as well, because it isn't just economics. It does have to be that ability and willingness to project power as well globally.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 having a fascinating conversation with the investment and finance expert Alpesh Patel. When we come back, we'll be asking him what on earth he's done with his dandias, bearing in mind the fact that we can't go out to Navratri this year as we have in the past, and also his take on some of the other issues concerning the community. After I've talked to Alpesh, please stay tuned. I'll be having a conversation about COVID with the Liberal Democrat councillor Rabi Martins, who represents a ward in Watford in North London. Then we'll be going to South London to talk to one of the most powerful women in the trade union movement, Christina McAnay, the Assistant General Secretary of Unison, Britain's biggest trade union that represents hundreds of thousands of black, Asian and ethnic minority frontline staff. So please stay tuned.
Leica Radio.
तू ही तो जन्नत मेरी, तू ही मेरा जुनून, तू ही तो मन्नत मेरी, तू ही रूह का सुकून, तू ही अखियों की ठंडक, तू ही दिल की है दस्तक, और कुछ ना जानूं मैं, बस इतना ही जानूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं, सजदे सर झुकता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं, तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा, मैं क्या करूं। सी मजबूरी मैंने नजरों से तुझे छू लिया ओहो कभी तेरी खुशबू कभी तेरी बातें बिन मांगे ये जहां पा लिया तू ही दिल की है रौनक तू ही जन्मों की दौलत और कुछ ना जानू बस इतना ही जानू तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं सजदे सर झुकता है यारा मैं क्या करूं तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं
Like a Radio. Like a Radio. Travel update.
I'm Michael Page. The M4 remains closed until tomorrow morning between junction 7 for Slough West and 8 to 9 for Maidenhead for the Highways Agency works this weekend. It is getting busy on the diversion via Maidenhead now. The A12 northbound in Essex is still closed between junction 12 for Mount Nessing and 14 for Margaretting because of a serious accident. In central London, Euston Road on the westbound side near to Euston Station, there's some flooding, but traffic is able to pass and is coping well. There's also still flooding on the A4 Great West Road in Hounslow heading into London just after Henley's roundabout. It's in lane 1 but lane 2 is passable. There's also flooding in Beckenham on Elmer's End Road, the A214 near to Birbeck Station. That's causing delays. On the trains, London North Eastern Railway are reporting delays of around 10 minutes for northbound services at Stevenage because of a signalling problem. Engineering work on the tubes means there's no District Line trains running today between Tower Hill and West Ham, and the Hammersmith and City Line isn't running between Hammersmith and Barking. There are buses running between Tower Hill and Barking instead. And because of major work taking place today between Liverpool Street and Ipswich, Greater Anglia have buses running between Newbury Park on the Central Line and Ipswich, and between Stansted Airport and Ipswich. Additionally, TfL rail services aren't running between Liverpool Street and Shenfield. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Like a Radio. Lorraine here runs her own hot yoga business. She'd rather be working on her warrior pose than on her finances. That's why she got QuickBooks. Now she can get paid, track income, and run payroll all in one place. Because no matter how hot the yoga studio gets, running her business is no sweat.
Visit quickbooks.co.uk for details. Intuit QuickBooks.
Like a Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Like a Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Like a Radio 1458. I'm talking to my very special guest, the investment and finance expert, Alpesh Patel. Alpesh, you've written 18 books that have been translated into 8 different languages, and you do a fair bit of broadcasting, so I should be careful about my own job having you on. Which bit do you like most? I mean, this communication, the written word or the spoken word? I think probably the spoken word in your case, but do you like your broadcasting? Do you like reviewing the newspapers and giving your views about the state of the world?
I have to say, it is power without responsibility, Keith, when I'm doing the BBC paper review and I can be angry at anybody and everybody about everything. But I have to say, the greatest fun was when I became a presenter for Bloomberg TV, because you had your own show, and that just sounds great. And as I said, I was about 29 at the time, and just to be able to say I've got my own TV show and talking talking about finance, which to me is just heaven. So I have to say, I think TV it was the most fun.
Now, of course, you and the rest of us are suffering because we can't go out with our dandias to celebrate Navratri. How are you coping with not being able to spend the 9 days of the Navratri season out with your wife and your friends and family?
Well, sadly, I have to say, living in London, it's been a while since I've had the chance to do it anyway. Unfortunately, my cousin got married last year. Oh, well, I know. Well, this is what happens when you leave Leeds and proper Indian communities and you sort of get, diffused in London. So the last time I did it was last year at my cousin Archana's wedding. We did Garba then. So I think it's all going to be on Zoom. And I should just point out at that point that I'm a shareholder in Zoom. But that's not why we'll be doing it on Zoom.
So you want us all to go on. But your religion is important to you, and that's part of your heritage and your roots from your family. You chair the City Hindu network. Why do you think we need religious-based organisations in a place like the City?
I'm of the view that I think we need more religion in the world, not less, which people might think a little bit odd, because when we look at the positivity that religion can bring, and as long as we keep doing that side of things, where bringing communities together, the seva, the charitable works, which all faiths have in common, that's what's really powerful and impactful. Now, why we need it in the City is because the City is just a place where, as they told me at university, you're just shuffling paper, so you need meaning in your life. And religion, through giving, can provide meaning to the empty, hollow existences that normally exist in the City.
Now, tell us about that day. The rest of the country and the world had a bad period with COVID, but you had some good news. Tell us about the day when you received the letter, which was only a few days ago, from the palace, telling you that you were being offered a honour by the Queen. You were given an OBE. When did the letter arrive? Who opened it? And what was your reaction?
Well, the funny thing is this year it was email because, and I assume the government didn't want to be troubling postmen with extra deliveries given COVID. So it was actually an email, and I was on a, would you believe, a Zoom call, and this email comes in, and I'm sort of reading it, and because I still do a lot of work with the government, I'm one of the government's deal makers, so it's one of those government roles where I look to bring technology companies to the UK. I just thought it's one of my sort of regular government emails and so on, so it didn't really register, and I kept talking, and then my talking became more slurred I think my people on the Zoom call started realising that he's actually not listening to us, really. And
but you couldn't tell them, of course. It was private and
I
confidential.
couldn't tell them, no, absolutely. It's confidential. And then I sort of worked it out while I'm sort of trying to talk to them. Now, I'm very fortunate because I have on my desk, I have a Ganesh and a Krishna. And you can imagine, obviously, the first thing I did was to look at them. I mean, you do feel very blessed given the difficulties that's going on. But it also puts, obviously, an obligation on you to do even more when you're that privileged and make sure you use all your resources to make things better for as many people as you can.
Alpesh, it's been fascinating talking to you this morning, and thank you for the tips you've given us about our shares. I've made a careful note for those of our listeners who have shares. We always ask our guests to choose a favourite song which they would like us to play at the end of the interview, which we will play shortly. What song have you chosen, and why have you chosen this particular song?
Now, my Gujarati is a lot better than my Hindi, but the song is Balam Pichkari from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. And the reason I chose it is one of the few Indian songs on my Spotify playlist, but it's just pure fun. People say I'm too serious, and this song I love listening to because it's just stupid, it's fun. It's also in the movie sung by Deepika Padukone, who I had the privilege of meeting once, and you know she's highlighted the issues about mental illness, so I really respect the person behind it as well. But I just love the fact that it's just fun and silliness, and God, do we need that at the moment as well. And
who would you like to dedicate it to?
Well, it's got to be my wonderful, wonderful wife, who, after 7 years of marriage, just said to me 3 days ago, she looked at me and she said, "Do you know, I'm glad I married you." And I thought, I'm doing well if after 7 years I get that. And my son, Rian, who is going to play for England one day. He's only 2.5 at the moment, but he's going to play for England in football one day.
Of course, absolutely. Which team do you think you'd like him to play for? Which club team would you like him to play for?
Oh, it's got to be Leeds United. He's already a Leeds United supporter. He doesn't know he is, but he is. And we're in the Premiership now. And
indeed. And playing very, very well indeed.
We are, with the exception of the last game, but we better not go down that rabbit hole.
Alpesh Patel, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. You've done so much in your young life, and you've got more to do in the future. So the best of luck for the future, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Keith. You've always been a wonderful role model, and thank you to the listeners of Leica Radio as well. Thank you all.
Now let's hear Alpesh Patel's
Leica Radio.
To the busy cook ducking out of work early on a Friday.
See you later.
To weave through traffic. Shoot home and switch from work mode to chef mode with the flick of a T-shirt. Before zipping back out to the shop to get that green chilli you swear was in the fridge. And sprint back home to make a curry for 6 on a stovetop for 3. Whew. Or to make sure Friday night curry night brings the heat. We couldn't have done it without you. Tilda Rice, 50 years thanks to you.
Your favourite family restaurant Sugar and Spice Lounge has a new look. Finger-licking Gujarati, Indo-Chinese, South Indian veg and non-veg cuisine, with all hygiene precautions taken. The ultimate family club where you watch sports on big screens or book your parties at Sugar and Spice Lounge, opposite Queensbury Station. Call 0208 616 0247.
I wash my hands to protect my family.
I wear a face covering to protect my mates.
I make space to protect my colleagues. Hands.
Face.
space.
I wash my hands to protect strangers.
I wear a face covering to protect other passengers.
I make space to protect you.
Hands.
Face.
Space.
As we spend more time indoors, we need to do whatever we can to help protect each other from coronavirus. So please, wash hands, cover face, make space.
Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
K means quality furniture. K means quick delivery. And K means cut prices. K Furniture. Up to 70% off on sofas, dining, beds and bedroom furniture. Stores at Cricklewood, Harrow and Hitchin. Or visit kfurniture.co.uk.
This is Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Let's go to Watford and talk to Councillor Rabi Martins about the COVID situation there. He was first elected to Watford Central Ward in 1994 and was council chairman between 2006 and 7 and 16 and 17, and also chair of development. He's a long history of public service, working as a community worker, school governor, vice president of the Scouts and president of the Rotary Club. Rabi is proud to be a campaigner for social housing and mental health champion for Watford, and he's been a councillor for Watford Council for 22 years. He joins me this morning from where else? Watford. Good morning, Councillor Rabi Martins.
Good morning, Keith. Lovely to talk to you.
Now, what is the COVID situation like in Watford?
Well, like everywhere else, it's obviously caused a great deal of stress, great deal of loss of jobs. Watford, as you know, Keith, is a regional shopping centre for this area. So the lockdown had a tremendous impact on our economy because the shops were shut, our eateries were shut down, and of course our football club couldn't get any people up there. So it has been a huge impact, certainly in terms of business, but also on the community, and particularly in relation to hyping up mental health among the elderly and school children has been very noticeable and very worrying.
Now, of course, the term north of Watford is known to many people, and people feel that if they go past Watford, they are in the north of England. They're not quite, of course, because they've got to go through the Midlands first. But you're a pivotal town, are you not? What are local residents saying to you about COVID? Do you think they understand the differences between Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, the rule of 6 and all these other things? Do you think there's an understanding of this?
You hit the nail on the head. I think that's part of the problem. Too many messages, too many descriptions. People just want to know, how am I going to be kept safe? What do I need to do to stay safe? And that message isn't getting through. This Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 really doesn't mean much to my constituents. They say, so does that mean I can go and visit my grandma? Or can I take my kids out to the park? All these day-to-day needs have not been addressed. So the message just needs to be very simple for my people in Watford, and I suspect elsewhere. They need to be told it's okay to do this, it's not okay to do that. You want to stay safe, keep your distance, wear your mask, etc. One other thing is they say that they also need to demonstrate that if people don't follow the rules, there are consequences. And again, that message is mixed at the moment.
Obviously, one area that is particularly affected, we've heard about this constantly, is the hospitality industry, and they are really suffering. Businesses have had some support from the government, but as soon as furlough is coming to an end and the rebates are coming to an end, it's going to be a problem. Do you think that this is still a real issue for local businesses?
Oh, very much so, yes. To be fair, the government did help, and that did play a small part. But what I'm being told by my constituents and constituent businesses, the impact on the public is that they're still nervous about going out. They're still not prepared to spend because they don't know what's going to happen to their jobs, etc. So yes, it's a huge, huge problem and won't be fixed very quickly. And I think our people know that. And of course, all this talk of a possible second hype is not helping.
Finally, Councillor Rabi Martins, you've been on the council in Watford now for 22 years. That's about a generation. Are you still enjoying it?
If I wasn't enjoying it, I wouldn't have stewed over and over again. But enjoying is the wrong word, Keith. The role is A, very challenging, and B, very satisfying. Satisfying because you're in a position to address real issues for real people. That's one. And also, because the committees I've been able to serve, I've been able to influence the sort of town we've got. And we are very proud that Watford is a family-friendly town. And I think the hospitality sector, the football club, etc., has helped that happen. And I like to think I've played my part in moving that forward. So very satisfying. And I won't say proud, but very, very, really pleased to have been able to do this and to continue to do it.
I'm sure that the residents of Watford, especially Watford Central, would want you to carry on for a very long time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and have a good Sunday.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for those kind words. And of course, thank you to Leica Radio for enabling me to be on. Thank you.
बलम पिचकारी जो तूने मुझे मारी तो बोले रे जमाना खराबी हो गई मेरे अंगराजा जो तेरा रंग लागा तो सीधी सादी छोरी शराबी हो गई
Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
Punjab National Bank International Limited launches mobile app for personal customers. Whether you want to send money to India or view your latest balance, do that on the go. Simply download our app for free from your mobile app store. Terms and conditions apply. For more details, please visit
www.pnbint.com. Deposit protection from FSCS. Authorised by the PRA and regulated by FCA and PRA.
You're so fussy with your food.
Mom, I only love the food at Natraj restaurant.
चलो चलते हैं जहाँ गुजराती, पंजाबी, इंडो चाइनीज और साउथ इंडियन फूड खा के हम अपनी उंगलियां चाटेंगे. 467 Alexandra Avenue, Rayners Lane. Call 020-8617-3858.
I love Natraj restaurant, even better than your food, mummy.
क्या?
Natraj restaurant.
467 Alexandra Avenue, Rayners Lane. Call 020-8617-3858. Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica Mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
जिंदगी में अगर कुछ बनना हो, कुछ हासिल करना हो, मास्टर शेफ जीतना हो, तो हमेशा दिल की सुनो। और अगर दिल भी कोई जवाब ना दे, तो आंखें बंद करके सिर्फ आकाश बासमती चुनो और उससे जो चाहे बनाओ। महकते सफेद चावल, खीर, पुलाव।
कभी कभी घर के बच्चे घर के बड़ों को सही बासमती दिखा देते हैं।
Akash Basmati, finest quality aromatic rice.
It's really good.
Businesses who deal with Europe, listen up. Time is running out. You've got new rules coming in on the 1st of January 2021. That's just round the corner. And getting ready can take longer than you think. These things always do. I know it's been a tough old year, but the countdown to the 1st of January has started. Don't get left behind. Start now at gov.uk/transition. Check, change, go.
के का मतलब कीमत कम, के का मतलब क्वालिटी में दम, के का मतलब डिलीवरी एकदम। के फर्नीचर up to 70% off on sofas, dining, beds and bedroom furniture. Stores at Cricklewood, Harrow and Hitchin or visit kfurniture.co.uk.
Leica Radio.
Finally, do you remember how we used to come out of our homes every Thursday to applaud our health workers? That's stopped now, but the work of our frontline health workers, many of them from the ethnic minority communities, goes on. Let's talk to Christina McAnee, the Assistant General Secretary of Unison, Britain's biggest trade union, with hundreds of thousands of BAME health workers. Born in Glasgow, she's risen through the ranks to become the union's chief negotiator, responsible for all bargaining and, very importantly, the union's equalities work. Christina has led Unison's response to COVID-19. She's brought the demands for PPE to the heart of government and insisted on greater protection for Black, Asian, low-paid and disabled workers, the worst affected in the first wave of the pandemic. She joins me this morning from South London. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you for having me on the show.
Now, how are frontline workers coping with COVID-19?
I think the first thing to say is for many of the staff who work in the NHS, it's been a difficult time because for so many of them, they're used to doing face-to-face work, meeting patients, holding their hand, talking to them, reassuring them. And a lot of that has had to stop. So many of them have had to do things online or have had to do it more from a distance unless they're sort of, actually doing physical caring for people on a ward. So that's been quite difficult and stressful for some of their members. But one of the key things that I think I would say is they're coping amazingly well. They're very resilient, they're doing well, but there's a lot of fear out there because, as I'm sure you're well aware, this week hospital admissions in some parts of the country are as high as they were back in April, and so that's putting a lot of pressure on staff, and they are worried, particularly staff who are from a BAME community or have themselves got underlying health conditions or are protecting someone in their family who has underlying conditions, and so there's still a lot of fear out there. And I think for some of the workers who are still supporting the day-to-day patient-facing work, but who are perhaps behind the scenes, so even cleaning, catering staff, the porters, the admin staff, there's a lot of concern there as well about the contact they're coming into. But as I said, they're doing an amazing job.
Do you think that enough is being done to provide them with protective equipment that they obviously so desperately need?
It was dreadful last time round. It's much better this time round, and we've been giving assurances that there will be enough PPE, but it will be the right level of PPE this time. As you know, the government made a lot of mistakes in ordering the wrong PPE. But the key for us is it's about PPE, but it's also about risk assessments. That's one of the urgent priorities, is to make sure everyone in the NHS has a risk assessment about their own personal circumstances. So this is whether you're from the BAME community or you have a disability or whatever. Risk assessment is the key to this.
Sure. Now, we've heard that MPs will shortly be getting another pay rise. How have NHS staff been rewarded for the incredible work that they've done?
Well, in April we got the third part of a 3-year pay deal that Unison negotiated, but we have put in a claim for a £2,000 increase for next year, but we're saying to the government, pay it this year. Show your appreciation to the workforce and pay them money this year, because they have gone above and beyond, and it doesn't seem that we're asking too much to say show that appreciation by paying them money this year when they've been through so much.
Now, you're also in charge of equalities. What steps is Unison taking as the biggest union in the country to make the workplace more equal?
So equalities is at the heart of everything we do in Unison, and we're pushing very hard on issues like the gender pay gap, a race pay gap and the disability pay gap, trying to hold employers to account, to not just show what the gap is, but actually take steps to address that. But certainly through this pandemic, what I've said to all the chief negotiators in Unison is get in there, talk to your employers. I want to know that every single employer we deal with is taking account of the impact of the pandemic on black workers.
Christina McInerney, thank you so much for joining us. Please pass on our thanks and the thanks of the listeners of Leica Radio 1458 to the frontline workers in the NHS. We don't hear their voice enough. We obviously hear also from the doctors, but not other workers. And please carry on with your excellent work.
Thank you very much, Keith. Thank you.
Sadly, time's up for this week. Please stay tuned for Aditi, who will be hosting another wonderful edition of Bollywood Hits after the news. My interesting fact of the week: the country with the largest number of tourists in the world. No, it's not the United States of America, it's France, which has 86.8 million tourists every single year. We are only 7th in the world with 37.6 million. These, of course, are pre-COVID figures. My thanks to my special guests, Alpesh Patel, Councillor Rabi Martins, and Christina McInerney, and, of course, Lakshi for choosing our songs. Thanks to the Leica team, station manager Sunil, producer Rupi, and my editor Adam. This has been Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio 1458. Thank you for tuning in. I know that you have a choice, so thank you for spending a bit of your Sunday morning with me. My closing song was number 1 in 34 countries and topped the charts for weeks upon weeks in the United States, the UK and Germany. It was recorded by the Canadian singer The Weeknd and has become a TikTok classic. And you all know how addicted I am to TikTok. It's called Blinding Lights. Stay safe, have a great Sunday, live long and prosper.
Show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through a drought. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn me on with just a touch, baby. I look around, see the city's cold and empty. No one's around to judge me. I can see clearly when you're gone.
1458 in London.
On your mobile.
And on DAB Digital Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at 11, a senior Conservative MP is urging the head of NHS Test and Trace, Baroness Dido Harding, to quit.
She's been a tremendous asset, but the test and trace capability clearly needs to move up several gears, and it's what leadership does, not who leadership is, that really matters.
Sir Bernard Jenkin, who's the chair of the Parliamentary Liaison Committee, says he thinks there is a lack of an overall strategy, but the government insists Baroness Harding has done an incredible job and doesn't think she should be sacked. A Labour frontbencher says it's not going to give up on our young people and children who are going to bed hungry. The party wants another vote on whether free school meals in England should be extended after MPs rejected a proposal to continue them into half-term. More than 50,000 people have now signed a petition calling for a ban on Welsh supermarkets selling non-essential items to be reversed. The First Minister's already confirmed that will be reviewed after shoppers who are under lockdown rules raised concerns. Turkey's president is claiming Emmanuel Macron needs mental health treatment over his attitude towards Muslims. The comments have led France to recall its ambassador, with officials there describing the remarks as unacceptably rude. In sport, Celtic can move within a point of Rangers at the top of the Scottish Premiership this lunchtime, if only for a few hours. They play Aberdeen before their Glasgow rivals host Livingston. Neil Lennon's side are aiming to avoid their third defeat in a row.
We're not used to back-to-back defeats, so it's important that we get back to winning ways.